the part of me that was yearning for something real, I think was what eventually broke through and said, you got to get your hands in the soil.
And what happens when you get your hands in the soil?
You
Because a
get,
lot of people are not getting their hands in the soil.
oh,
I'm
yeah.
I'm just new to it myself.
Yeah. And, I will say, like, I think for me, soil is both a medium, it's a source of life, right? It's texture, it's water, it's moisture. Um, but it is also a framework that I now see different types of soils, right? And what nourishment can be for our social soil, right? Our health soil, our body soil. But it definitely is grounding, like both literally, physically, and metaphysically.
So what's it like going from working with soil to then deciding to go soilless
Yeah.
and pursue hydroponics?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. It's always been a hybrid. I never really enjoyed pure hydroponics, right? Hydroponics literally just means, working with water. And so I was a fan of automation and control of variables much more than I was about kind of artificial nutrients and kind of laboratory type of growing, right? I was much more drawn to the farm and the greenhouse than the indoor growing facility. And what we created, this was in Broomfield when we first started growing microgreens, was that we could grow in a hybrid manner using a mixture of soilless medium with a little bit of organic matter. It was like cocoa, perlite, maybe some compost in there, and and filtered water, no additional like liquid fertilizers or nutrients, and sunlight. And that's how we started growing it. And it wasn't even our initial plan. Like Dave and I came out here in 2013. We wanted to start a commercial lettuce and tomato farm, very similar to the one that I was growing in Ohio.
Mm.
And, we didn't know where to start. Like we were blessed to have access to 35 acres, but walking onto 35 acres with nothing there, we're like, where do we start? We have a vision of where we want to go. I have no idea how to get there. So what do? We built a barn. That was the first
Mhm.
project we did. And, I was like, I have no idea how long it's going to take, when I'm going to be able to like exclusively focus on this.
You could
So
call up all your Amish buddies. Don't they do that stuff in
I
like a
know, right?
weekend?
Exactly.
They go-
And that's the thing, like they have such a strong sense of community and working with each other, but we had no community out here.
Mm.
I had no family. I just had him and a couple friends, and they weren't interested in farming. And so it was just me and Dave, like doing it all ourselves.
Especially in Bennett, which is
It's
kind of
hard.
by the airport, kind
Yeah.
of on the way
Yeah.
outskirts.
It's out there.
This podcast is brought to you by B Micro, a company I'm deeply passionate about because I founded it in 2018. It's USDA organic freeze-dried microgreens for everyday nutrition and detox. Sprinkle them on any meal or take them as a capsule to enjoy the many healthy benefits. Shop now at bmicro.farm. Use code STEVE15 to save.
I mean, I got the call from Dave 6 months or so before I came out here. He's like, hey, I found some land. I think we're going to go for it. Like, you want to do this? And as soon as he told me he had secured the land, I was like, I'm there. It took me 6 months to get here, but I came out here and started focusing on that. But I was like, I was eager to grow something. And, we were bringing stuff to the farm in the hopes that we would use it someday. So we had no firm plan. We just had a bunch of material. We built a barn. He got a tractor. And I was like, okay, like, how do we do this? And it definitely felt like we were trying something without a clear destination and hoping to just trust the process. But in 2017, I was like ready to start growing something and luckily I found a place in Broomfield, moved in with a couple of friends. It was on a half acre and we got the okay from the landowner to get chickens, to start building gardens, and it had a beautiful landscape already. We just added the kind of like homestead operations. And then it had a lean-to passive solar greenhouse. And so I was like, this is where we're going to grow. This is awesome. So I started growing microgreens there. And I remember having success like super early on and feeling like pumped about it and motivated. And then I was like, hey, we should try and sell this. Like, we're growing way more than we can consume ourselves. So we we started looking at farmers markets. I started reaching out to chefs. And around this time was when the whole trend just started to like come on the scene, like 2016, 2017. And it was so easy to make sales back then.
Mhm.
So we got a
There wasn't a
ton.
million and one other farmers,
Exactly.
and yeah.
It hadn't caught on yet at a big scale, but a lot of chefs knew about them, and they were still kind of like like a niche product. And I came in, packaged it up real well, told them our story, and they were like, "Yeah, I'll get a tray or two a week." And I was like, "Okay, that's awesome." And then I went over to Lucky's North Boulder, and they picked us up right away. Went to Alfalfa's, they picked us up. Went to the Alfalfa's in Louisville. They were like, "Yeah, totally." We started stocking the shelves. And then I was like, "Man, this is growing faster than I thought. Like, this is no longer a hobby. Now it's a business." And then we had a conversation with the Lucky's managers. And then they're like, "Yeah, we're going to expand to like 5 stores and you're coming with us." And so they put us in all the stores. It was awesome. I was like elated. And I told Dave, I was like, "Dave, yo, I know we want to do tomatoes and lettuce, but like, I got a business right now. Like, let's just focus on this. Let's scale this to the farm." So, we basically were like, "All right, let's do it." So we maximized the production space in the small little lean-to greenhouse in Broomfield and scaled to the farm with a lot of challenges because there was no power, there was no water. We had a well, but we had to use a a generator to pump it. And so then I was like, "Okay, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna get a shipping container and we're gonna start growing inside of it until we get the greenhouse up." So he asked his folks for some help. I asked my parents, and we were able to get a shipping container out there, and then we rigged it up, all the lights, still growing in soil, in the soil that we mixed, and hand watering everything, and then running everything off the generator. I remember driving from Broomfield to Bennett every day to fill the generator up. And it was like, this is not sustainable. So then we were like, okay, we got to find some money to like get power out there. And I will move out there and sleep in a camper and get this farm up and going. So that's what I ended up doing. And we retained all of our wholesale customers. Once we got the greenhouse up, we scaled and then we got signed on to a major distributor to start doing our distribution. At that point, we were too small to do all of our deliveries. We were way the hell out there, and I couldn't be driving to Boulder and Fort Collins. And so the distributor started doing our deliveries, and I was like, "Great, we're set. Like, we'll just keep growing from here, and I'll keep doing sales and keep growing, and we'll build a team." And then the pandemic hit,
And restaurants closed.
and restaurant closed, and then we got the bankruptcy letters from Lucky's, and then Alfalfa's shut down. And it was like, wow, like in the span of just a few months, like we lost all of our customers.
Mhm.
We had a few retail customers, direct to consumer, and I was fitting them into my delivery routes, but I was like, I can't drive out there just for $25. So, that's when I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, we got to figure out something. And thankfully, the the connections that I made while I was growing the microgreen business led me to build some good relationships with food pantries. And they were the first ones to call me when they had money to supplement the low amount of donations and surplus of food that they used to be getting. They're like, now we have to buy food, but thankfully the government gave us money to feed our communities. And so they started turning to us and asking us if we had any food that we could sell them. And I was like, I got microgreens. So we pivoted to food security pretty drastically.